Welcome to the Big Game Hunting Podcast, where we help hunters like you prepare for the big game hunting adventures you've always dreamed of. Now, here's your host, John McAdams.
Hello, this is your host, John McAdams, and you are listening to episode 121 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. Well, I've got another cartridge comparison episode for you today. And today, we're going to talk about the 6.5 Creedmoor and how it compares to the old 243 Winchester. Now, while the 243 Winchester has a long and distinguished history of use as a great mild recoiling deer hunting cartridge, the 6.5 Creedmoor is much newer to the hunting game. Both offer certain advantages to hunters, and there's quite a bit of overlap in their capabilities, but there are some significant differences between the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 243 Winchester cartridges that you should be aware of. Now, unfortunately, there is a lot of hype and misinformation out there regarding the capabilities of those cartridges, especially with regards to the 6.5 Creedmoor. Not surprisingly, while each cartridge offers certain benefits to hunters, it is still really easy to get confused when trying to understand their actual strengths and weaknesses. So in this episode, I'm going to do a detailed comparison of the 6.5 Creedmoor versus the 243 Winchester and discuss the pros and cons of each one to help provide some insight into which cartridge will work best for you. Now, before we get started, this episode is brought to you by my new Muzzleloaders 101 online course. 2020 has been a crazy year for all sorts of reasons. Among many other noteworthy events, lots of different places set hunter participation records this year. Over-the-counter tags sold out in record time in some places, and demand for many drawn hunts was through the roof compared to 2019. The bottom line is that there were more people than ever out in the woods this year. Fortunately, hunting with a muzzleloader can be a great way to get away from the crowds, though. I originally got into hunting with a muzzleloader for that exact reason, and I've had lots of success hunting during the special muzzleloader seasons in Georgia, Washington, Texas, and New Mexico. Now, I'd love hunting with modern firearms as much as the next guy, but looking ahead to 2021, I'm personally probably going to be spending quite a bit more time hunting with a muzzleloader in order to take advantage of some of those easier to draw tags and more advantageous hunting seasons. Now, there's no reason you can't do the same thing, and the Muzzleloaders 101 online course is the perfect resource for helping you learn to safely, effectively, and legally hunt with a muzzleloader. Plus, everyone who signs up for the course will also get access to some exclusive discounts on muzzleloader equipment. So go to muzzleloaders101.com/buy, that's BUY, to learn more. Okay, now let's talk about the 243 and the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, the story of the 243 Winchester and the 6.5 Creedmoor really begins with the 308 Winchester. Winchester unveiled the cartridge we now know as the 308 Winchester back in 1952, and the new cartridge quickly developed a reputation for accuracy, power, and efficiency with hunters and shooters. As is the case with many good cartridges, wildcatters and gun designers started modifying the 308 Winchester to develop new and more specialized wildcat cartridges almost immediately after it hit the market. Among others, the 260 Remington, the 7mm 08 Remington, the 338 Federal, and the 358 Winchester are all descended from the legendary 308 Winchester, as designers necked the case up or down as necessary to shoot smaller or larger 6.5mm, 7mm, 33 caliber, or 35 caliber bullets, respectively. Experiments with necking down the 308 to shoot smaller .243-inch bullets yielded one of the first cartridges descended from the 308 Winchester in 1955, the 243 Winchester. Similar to the difference between the 25-06 Remington and the 30-06 Springfield, by necking down the 308 case to shoot smaller caliber bullets, the designers of the 243 Winchester built a cartridge with a higher velocity, flatter trajectory, and less recoil than the 308 Winchester. The new 243 Winchester really caught on with a segment of the hunting population that wanted a flat shooting and light recoiling rifle cartridge that was still powerful enough to hunt big game like pronghorn and deer. Capable of shooting heavy as well as light bullets with very good accuracy, the 243 Winchester was also a great varmint hunting cartridge and successfully bridged the gap between traditional varmint cartridges of the day like the 22 Hornet and popular big game hunting cartridges like the 30-06. While the 243 Winchester was indeed a very well-designed and very effective cartridge, there are plenty of good cartridges that don't experience commercial success for one reason or another. Fortunately for the 243 Winchester, Field & Stream editor Warren Page extolled the virtues of the 243 in his columns in a manner similar to what Jack O'Connor did for the 270 Winchester at Outdoor Life. The efforts of Page certainly helped the 243 Winchester get established in the hunting and shooting communities. After all, a well-designed cartridge that's the subject of a good marketing campaign has much better odds of commercial success. Well, the 6.5 Creedmoor is another good example of a great cartridge that received an enthusiastic and coordinated marketing campaign, which came from Hornady and Ruger in this case. Unveiled in 2008, the 6.5 Creedmoor was the brainchild of Dave Emery and Dennis DeMille. They designed the cartridge in an effort to gain an advantage in high-power competition rifle shooting, which had long been dominated by the .308 Winchester. Basically, they wanted a new cartridge that would fit in a shorter action magazine and was just as accurate as the .308 but with less recoil, less wind drift, and a flatter trajectory. By modifying a .30 Thompson Center case to shoot .264-inch bullets, they successfully built a cartridge with a relatively large case capacity, optimized for use with 4350 class propellants that could also accommodate long, heavy, high ballistic coefficient bullets without intruding into the powder column. Named the 6.5 Creedmoor in honor of the Creedmoor matches and designed for use with a relatively fast 1 and 8-inch rifling twist rate, Emery and DeMille were quite successful in their goal of building the ideal competition shooting cartridge. The 6.5 Creedmoor does not have eye-popping ballistics, but it has moderate recoil, is very accurate, and uses high ballistic coefficient bullets that retain energy and resist wind drift exceptionally well. Like the .243 Winchester, the new 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge has less recoil and a flatter trajectory than the .308 Winchester. For those reasons, the cartridge has seen a great deal of success in the hands of competition shooters and has made the jump into the mainstream hunting community in the past few years. Now, the .243 Winchester and the 6.5 Creedmoor are very similar in overall size and both use a rimless bottlenecked case. The .243 and the 6.5 Creedmoor are both designed for use in short-action rifles, and they have similar case lengths as well as similar overall lengths. Both cartridges also have the same .473-inch rim diameter. Bullet size is one of the most obvious differences between them. The .243 Winchester uses .243-inch or 6mm bullets, while the 6.5 Creedmoor uses .264-inch or 6.5mm bullets. There's also a significant difference in the most common bullet weights for each cartridge. The .243 Winchester most often uses bullet weights in the 55 to 115 grain range, with 55, 87, 90, and 100 grain bullets being the most common. On the other hand, the 6.5 Creedmoor most often uses bullets in the 95 to 160 grain range, with 120, 129, 140, and 143 grain bullets being the most common. Now, the 6.5 Creedmoor also has a slightly less tapered case with a steeper 30-degree shoulder, while the .243 Winchester has a 20-degree shoulder. The end result is that even though the 6.5 Creedmoor has a noticeably shorter case than the .243, both cartridges have virtually the same case capacity. And also, as one final note, the 6.5 Creedmoor is also loaded to a higher pressure of 62,000 psi versus 60,000 psi for the .243 Winchester. The similarities and differences in the external dimensions of the .243 and the 6.5 Creedmoor also translate into some interesting differences in their ballistic performance. Now, when comparing otherwise identical factory ammunition loaded with the same style bullet, the .243 Winchester generally uses a much lighter bullet at a significantly faster muzzle velocity. Normally, we're looking at about a 300 to 500 foot per second advantage in muzzle velocity for the .243 Winchester, and that translates into a flatter trajectory with less bullet drop at longer range. However, the 6.5 Creedmoor generally uses a heavier and more aerodynamic bullet with a higher ballistic coefficient. So even though it's going several hundred feet per second slower, the Creedmoor has more kinetic energy at all ranges, and that gap significantly increases in size in favor of the 6.5 Creedmoor as range increases. So we're looking at the 6.5 Creedmoor having, say, approximately 10 to 30% more muzzle energy than the .243 Winchester, and that turns into a 25 to nearly 100% advantage in favor of the 6.5 Creedmoor at 100 yards. So I think it's fair to say that the 6.5 Creedmoor hits significantly harder than the .243 Winchester, especially at longer range. Now, at the same time, the 6.5 Creedmoor has more resistance to wind drift than the .243 Winchester. Even though they're going really fast, those lighter and less aerodynamic bullets used by the .243 just get pushed around a little more by the wind than those used by the 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, the details vary depending on the exact loads for each cartridge we're comparing. At best, the 243 Winchester will drift about as much as a given 6.5 Creedmoor hunting load. However, it's also not uncommon for a particular 243 load to have an additional 6 to 12 inches or more of wind drift at 500 yards. Now, the differences are, of course, smaller at shorter range, but that is still a pretty big advantage in favor of the 6.5 Creedmoor at longer range. Now, that performance does come at a cost in terms of recoil, though. Once again, exact details vary depending on the exact rifle and load in question, but the 243 Winchester has significantly less recoil than the 6.5 Creedmoor, like 50% less free recoil energy in many cases. And that's really saying something too, because the 6.5 Creedmoor is known for a pretty mild recoil itself. Now, most shooters should be able to handle the recoil of both cartridges, but the 243 Winchester really has the edge in this respect, especially for smaller or recoil-shy hunters. Of course, that's a big part of the reason why the 243 is so popular with younger or inexperienced hunters. Don't underestimate the impact that recoil has on the ability of a person to shoot accurately either. Some people do handle recoil better than others, but all other things being equal, they will absolutely shoot more accurately with a milder recoiling cartridge. So where do we stand with each one? The 243 Winchester fires smaller diameter bullets at a significantly higher velocity than the 6.5 Creedmoor. The 243 has a flatter trajectory and much less recoil, but the 6.5 Creedmoor retains more kinetic energy and drifts less in the wind than the 243 Winchester at typical hunting ranges. All things considered, the two cartridges have different strengths and are optimized for different uses. The 243 Winchester has definite advantages in velocity, recoil, and trajectory, while the 6.5 Creedmoor is more resistant to wind drift and carries significantly more energy downrange. Additionally, the 6.5 Creedmoor has a couple of other advantages that are also worth discussing. First, the 6.5 Creedmoor does use larger diameter bullets than the 243. Specifically, the larger .264-inch bullets used by the 6.5 Creedmoor have about 17% more frontal surface area than the .243-inch bullets used by the 243 Winchester. All other things being equal, a bigger bullet will make a bigger hole, cause more tissue damage, and result in more blood loss. Especially when combined with the fact that the 6.5 Creedmoor carries more kinetic energy downrange than the 243 Winchester, those larger diameter bullets are certainly helpful when hunting big game. Now, the 6.5 millimeter bore diameter is also in something of a sweet spot where it's easier to manufacture very high BC bullets that aren't especially heavy. Those aerodynamic projectiles don't slow down as fast and are more resistant to wind drift. Now, at the same time, the 6.5 Creedmoor also has a slight edge over the 243 in bullet sectional density, especially with those heavier bullets. As I've mentioned before, sectional density is a measure of the ratio of a diameter of a projectile to its mass. All other things being equal, a heavier diameter of a given caliber will be longer and therefore have a higher sectional density and consequently penetrate deeper than projectiles with a lower mass and lower sectional density. For example, 120 grain and 143 grain .264-inch bullets have sectional densities of .246 and .293 respectively. This compares favorably to 90 grain and 100 grain .243-inch bullets, which have sectional densities of .218 and .242 respectively. So those high sectional density bullets used by the 6.5 Creedmoor do assist with penetration and do help the cartridge punch above its weight to a certain extent. So what about their accuracy? The 243 Winchester is certainly capable of outstanding accuracy, often sub-MOA in good rifles with a good shooter, and the exceptionally mild recoil of the cartridge does also help immensely in that regard. At shorter range, the cartridges are very evenly matched in terms of accuracy. The 243 Winchester does have probably a small advantage due to the fact that mild recoil and the flatter trajectory of the cartridge certainly probably help to a certain extent with hunters placing their shots in the right spot. Yes, I know I am splitting hairs here, but the situation does change a little bit when shooting at longer distances, though. After all, the 6.5 Creedmoor is specifically designed as a competition shooting cartridge. At the same time, since it uses those .264-inch bullets, there is a bigger selection of high ballistic coefficient and high sectional density match-grade hunting bullets available for the cartridge. Those factors give the 6.5 Creedmoor an edge at longer range where resistance to wind drifts becomes more important. Now, that's not to say that the 243 isn't accurate or that there aren't a bunch of good quality bullets available for it. It's just that the overall design of the 6.5 Creedmoor gives that cartridge an edge over the 243 Winchester in potential accuracy at extended range. Now let's talk about ammo selection for both cartridges. The 243 and the 6.5 Creedmoor are both extremely popular centerfire rifle cartridges. Indeed, they're usually in the top 10 most popular cartridges in the USA each year. Now, it is perfectly reasonable not to like or not want to hunt with the 6.5 Creedmoor for whatever reason. However, I think we can safely say at this point that the cartridge is not a fad and it's not going away anytime soon. This isn't going to be like one of the Winchester Super Short Magnum or the Remington Short Action Ultra Magnum cartridges introduced in the early 2000s, many of which really were just a flash in the pan. I do understand why people who got burned with one of those aforementioned cartridges and have a hard time getting factory ammo for now are a little hesitant to buy something new like the 6.5 Creedmoor. At this point, the 6.5 Creedmoor has been around for about 12 years, and it is much more popular than any of the WSSM or the RSAUM cartridges ever were, and it still seems to be growing in popularity. In my conversations with reps from the big ammo companies, every single one of them said that the 6.5 Creedmoor has consistently been in their top 5 and sometimes even top 3 best-selling cartridges for the past few years. So just take that for what it's worth. Now, the 243 Winchester has been around for even longer, and it has an even longer track record of success. So I do also understand why people just may feel a little bit more comfortable with it, and that's fine too. All things considered, at this instant, the 6.5 Creedmoor is probably a little bit more popular than the 243 Winchester, but they're both widely used and ammo is really easy to find for both of them. The big ammo companies like Barnes, Browning, Federal Premium, Hornady, Nosler, Remington, Sierra, Swift, and Winchester all produce a large variety of quality 243 Winchester and 6.5 Creedmoor factory ammunition suitable for hunting many species of big game. In each case, there is normally a good selection of bullet types and weights for each cartridge suitable for big game hunting. Now, Predator and Varmint rounds like the Hornady VMAX and the Nosler Varmageddon are also commonly available for both cartridge as factory loads, but they are a little more common for the 243 Winchester. During normal times, it's usually very easy to find ammo for both cartridges, and almost any gun or sporting goods store will have a wide variety of 243 Winchester and 6.5 Creedmoor ammo in stock. Ammo availability is usually excellent online, and the bigger retailers typically have a good selection of quality factory ammo for both cartridges as well. If you're a hand loader, bullets like the Barnes LRX, TSX, TTSX, and TACX, the Berger VLD, the Hornady AMAX, ELDX, GMX, Interbond, Interlock, SST, VMAX, the Nosler Accubon, Ballistic Tip, E-Tip, and Partition, the Sierra Game Changer and Game King, and the Swift Sirocco and A-Frame, just to name a few, are definitely good options that you can all use. Now let's talk about rifles. In addition to the great selection of ammunition available in 243 Winchester and 6.5 Creedmoor, there are also many really high-quality rifles manufactured in both cartridges. Just like with ammo, 6.5 Creedmoor rifles are usually a little more common than 243 rifles, but both are extremely common, so finding a good deer rifle should not be an issue at all, regardless of which one you choose. Both are extremely common, in particular in bolt-action rifles. In fact, just about every really popular bolt-action hunting rifle in current production is available in both cartridges. For instance, both cartridges are available in several different versions of the Remington Model 700 and Winchester Model 70. The same goes for the Browning X-Bolt, the Kimber Hunter, the Mossberg Patriot, the Nosler M48, the Remington Model 7, the Ruger American, Ruger Hawkeye, Savage Axis, Tikka T3, Weatherby Vanguard, and Winchester XPR. So with all that in mind, which one is right for you? Do you primarily hunt medium-sized game like whitetail deer and feral hogs at ranges within 200 yards? The 243 Winchester and the 6.5 Creedmoor are both absolutely outstanding deer hunting cartridges, and both cartridges will absolutely get the job done on medium-sized game if you do your part, and there isn't a gigantic difference between them ballistically inside of 300 yards. I'm splitting hairs here, but go with the 243 if you're primarily hunting big game like deer, or the 6.5 Creedmoor if you want something a little bit more versatile. Now, what if you're looking for the better cartridge for longer range hunting for game like mule deer or pronghorn in open country where you may need to take a shot at a couple hundred yards? The 243 will work for this sort of hunting, but the 6.5 Creedmoor is the better choice here because it has more resistance to wind drift and it carries more energy out past 200 yards. Now, do you want a hunting cartridge that is well suited for caribou, moose, elk, eland, kudu, or red stag hunting? I consider both to be on the light side for hunting larger game. But if you had to choose between just these two, then I would definitely go with the 6.5 Creedmoor because it shoots larger diameter bullets that carry more kinetic energy downrange, especially with those heavier bullets. And don't forget about that discussion we had about sectional density and how that is good for penetration, and how, once again, that is an area where the 6.5 Creedmoor has another definite advantage over the 243 Winchester. So like I said, not my first choice for it, but go with the 6.5 Creedmoor over the 243 if you're hunting bigger game. Now, what if you're sensitive to recoil and you need a serious low recoil cartridge? Well, the 243 Winchester does have significantly less recoil than the 6.5 Creedmoor, especially in a lighter rifle. So this cartridge is especially well suited to new, small-framed, and or recoil-shy hunters. Indeed, the 243 Winchester is extremely popular for children to use for deer hunting because it's just so darn effective on deer and it has such mild recoil. But what if you want a round that is best suited for target shooting out past 400 yards or so in a precision rifle? Well, I would go with the 6.5 Creedmoor for that sort of work because it is specifically designed to use very high BC bullets, but still has very manageable recoil. It is hands down the best choice for long-range shooting of those two cartridges. Now, the 243 Winchester and the 6.5 Creedmoor are both excellent rifle cartridges, albeit ones with different strengths and weaknesses. Though the differences between them are significant in some respects, they are both suitable for many hunting tasks. Now, I do personally like both of them, but I tend to lean a little bit more towards the 6.5 Creedmoor myself, of these two, remember, but that's just me, and there's not a darn thing wrong with the 243 Winchester. Now, I have written a really detailed article about these two cartridges, and I will put a link to it in the show notes if you want to check it out and see some pictures of them and some graphs of their trajectory, that sort of thing. Now, what about you? Which one do you prefer? The 243 Winchester or the 6.5 Creedmoor? Let me know. I want to hear what you think. Send me a direct message on Instagram, and my handle is @TheBigGameHunter, or you can email me at john@thebiggamehuntingblog.com. And remember, check out the Muzzleloaders 101 course, your all-in-one solution where I'll take you by the hand and guide you through the whole process of getting started hunting with a muzzleloader. I'll help you decide what gear you need, help you save money when you buy that gear, and teach you how to use all that stuff safely, legally, and effectively, both at the range and out in the woods. And plus, I can get you exclusive discounts on muzzleloader gear, and I'm teaming up with a big retailer of muzzleloader supplies to give away a free muzzleloader to one of the first 100 people who sign up for the course. So if you're considering learning to hunt with a muzzleloader, or if you already hunt with one and you just want to take your game to the next level, you need to take advantage of this opportunity. Head on over to muzzleloaders101.com/buy, that is BUY, or you can click on the link in the show notes and sign up to get started. Remember, you can make your dream hunt turn into a reality, and we can help. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back here next time on the Big Game Hunting Podcast.
This show may be over, but we have plenty more for you on our website. For more information on today's topic, as well as lots of other useful hunting resources, head over to thebiggamehuntingblog.com. We look forward to having you back for the next episode. But until then, happy hunting.